I never thought my life could change in a single moment, but that morning, everything shifted. I woke up to the smell of coffee and the faint light of dawn spilling through the blinds, and yet, there was a strange heaviness in my chest. At first, I thought it was anxiety, the usual pressure of work and life. But when I got out of bed and looked at my body in the mirror, my heart skipped a beat. It wasn't subtle. My stomach looked different. Rounded, firm, undeniable. My breasts felt heavier, fuller than before. My skin glowed in a way that was almost unnatural. I pressed my hands against my abdomen, my mind spinning. This isn't possible, I whispered to myself. My reflection stared back, and for the first time, I saw someone I barely recognized, someone changing before my eyes. And then I remembered her. She had been unusually insistent lately, encouraging me to take care of my health, with a series of supplements, strict routines, and even a strange fertility regimen she insisted we follow together. I laughed it off at the time, thinking she was over the top. But now, fear and realization collided in a perfect storm. I sank to the floor, my hands clutching my hair. No, this can't be real. How did this happen? My heart raced, a mix of terror and disbelief. It was impossible, biologically it should have been, but my body, every fiber of me, screamed otherwise. And deep down, I knew it wasn't an accident. It was her plan. The following days were surreal. Every reflection in windows, mirrors, and even spoons reminded me that my life had shifted irreversibly. I tried to act normal at work, but the heaviness in my chest, the subtle swell of my abdomen, made it impossible to hide completely. My co-workers glanced at me curiously, some whispering, some staring openly. You look different," one said, trying to sound casual. I laughed nervously, my voice higher and softer than usual, tinged with uncertainty. "Yeah, I guess I'm just glowing," I muttered, avoiding their gaze. Lunches and meetings became exercises in tension. Every chair I sat in felt uncomfortable, every movement reminding me that my body was no longer my own. I could feel people noticing, an odd combination of fascination and curiosity, and it terrified me. I wanted to explain, to confess, but even I didn't fully understand what was happening. At home, the whispers and subtle nudges from her made me increasingly uneasy. She watched me closely, a faint smile always on her lips, encouraging and teasing at the same time. "You're carrying it well," she said casually one evening, brushing my hair from my face. "Soon, you'll understand everything I've planned for us." I froze. My pulse spiked. "Planned?" I asked, my voice trembling. She shrugged, playful, yet commanding. "You'll see. Just trust me." Alone in my room, I faced my reflection again. My hands moved over my rounded stomach, my chest, my softer, fuller curves. Fear battled with an unexpected, creeping curiosity. My mind raced with questions. What did this mean? Was it even possible? And most terrifying of all, what did I feel? Tentatively, I began experimenting with the new contours of my body. Soft fabrics against my skin, loose dresses that draped over my swelling belly, gentle touches that felt intimate and strange. I tried moving differently, swaying as I walked, noticing the subtle weight shift with every step. Each motion felt foreign, but also undeniably powerful. I experimented with voice, laughter, gestures. Each interaction, even in solitude, taught me something about inhabiting this new body. The fear persisted, but mingled now with a strange thrill. My body was changing, and with it, a new part of myself was emerging. Soft, vulnerable, yet undeniably alive. The first outing to the grocery store was an ordeal. I wrapped myself in loose, flowing fabrics, careful not to draw too much attention. And yet, as soon as I stepped outside, I felt every glance like a spotlight. People noticed the curve of my stomach, the gentle swell of my chest, the subtle change in my gait. Whispers trailed behind me, eyes lingered longer than comfortable. A stranger smiled warmly at me. "Expecting?" they asked, voice tentative but curious. My heart stopped. I nodded slowly, unsure how to respond. "Yes. I guess I am," I whispered, voice catching. Every word felt strange, foreign, yet oddly truthful. The stranger smiled, offered congratulations, and moved on, leaving me trembling in a mix of panic and pride? By the end of that day, I realized something profound. The transformation wasn't just about physical change. It was about presence, about perception, about inhabiting a role that the world immediately recognized. And while fear lingered, a small, dangerous spark of confidence had taken root. Weeks passed, and the pregnancy progressed. My body grew, and so did my understanding of the role I had been thrust into. She guided me subtly, insisting I practice being nurturing, delicate, and aware of the new life I carried. She showed me how to sit, how to stand, how to interact, every gesture infused with a soft femininity I hadn't known before. One afternoon, she took me to a prenatal class, bustling with other expectant mothers. Panic surged as I realized I was fully visible in my new role, surrounded by women who had done this naturally, without manipulation. I felt exposed, vulnerable, utterly out of place. But gradually, I learned to move with confidence, to respond with grace, to inhabit this body fully. By the end of the class, I was smiling, laughing even, blending in seamlessly. The thrill of acceptance, the subtle attention from others, was intoxicating. For the first time, I realized I was no longer just a subject of her plan. I was a participant, an active presence shaping how I was seen and felt. The climax came during a family gathering she orchestrated. Everyone knew or thought they knew I was expecting, and she guided me meticulously, dress chosen, makeup perfect, posture graceful. Each step into the room was deliberate, every smile and glance calibrated. The room went silent. Whispers rippled like a wave. People stared, unsure how to process my transformation. And then, a sense of power surged through me. I wasn't hiding. I was visible. I was commanding attention. Her hand brushed against mine, whispering softly, "You've done well. You're fully hers now." I took a deep breath, shoulders back, chin high. The fear was still there, yes, but mingled now with exhilaration. I had embraced it. I was living it. And in that moment, I felt a surge of empowerment I hadn't known existed. By the time the evening ended, I had made a conscious choice. I would no longer resist. This life, this body, this role, forced or not, was mine to inhabit. Every curve, every movement, every gentle swell of my belly was a reminder of who I had become and the power I now wielded in being fully visible, fully accepted, fully alive. Alone later, in front of the mirror, I traced my hands over my abdomen, over my curves, over the soft, glowing skin. I am hers. I am carrying life. I am alive. And I am proud, I whispered. The fear, the panic, the disbelief, they were gone. In their place was confidence, empowerment, and a deep, radiant acceptance. I had been forced into this life, yes, but by choosing to embrace it, I had claimed it entirely. I was no longer just a participant in her plan. I was a woman, carrying life, living fully, unapologetically, and with a power I had never known before. The first days after noticing the change were a haze of fear, disbelief, and quiet panic. Every morning, I woke up half expecting it to have all been a dream, but it wasn't. My body had undeniably shifted, and no matter how I tried, I couldn't reverse it. Each glance in a mirror made me wince and tremble. I pressed my hands to my stomach, tracing the gentle swell, the roundness that hadn't been there before, and shivered. She watched me silently during those first days, always near but never intrusive. Sometimes, she would brush my hair from my face, her fingers lingering in a way that sent shivers down my spine. "You're adjusting well," she said one morning, her voice soft but confident. "Soon, you'll understand why I planned everything this way." I froze, my pulse spiking. "Planned? You mean, this, all of this?" My voice shook, and she just smiled faintly, a knowing, teasing curve of her lips. "Yes," she said simply. "Everything you're feeling, everything that's happening. It's exactly as I intended." I sank onto the edge of the bed, feeling dizzy and overwhelmed. How could she have done this? The realization that I wasn't just changing physically but that she had orchestrated it. It left me reeling. I wanted to be angry, but instead, there was a strange mix of fear and curiosity, a dangerous combination. Alone in my room, I began to explore my new body in secret. The softness of my skin, the roundness of my belly, the subtle swell of my chest, it was all foreign and intimate. I touched myself tentatively, marveling at the sensation while feeling a creeping unease. I was learning the contours of a life I hadn't chosen, yet somehow, in some perverse way, I couldn't look away. I tried on clothes she had prepared for me, soft, flowing dresses that draped over my abdomen, fabrics that clung gently to my curves. Each outfit felt like a revelation. The mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized, yet who seemed to belong there, graceful, delicate, glowing. My fingers traced the fabrics against my skin, feeling the weight and texture, marveling at how this body moved differently now. My voice changed too. Simple things, like speaking softly or laughing lightly, made me hyper-aware. Even saying my own name felt strange, melodic, higher-pitched than before. I practiced alone, whispering to my reflection, testing inflection, experimenting with pitch and tone. Each sound, each word, made me more aware of her influence and control over my new identity. I found myself experimenting with gestures as well, subtle tilts of the head, a sway in my hips, the gentle arch of a shoulder. Movements that once felt natural as a man now took intention and focus, but in practicing them, I discovered a strange satisfaction. The body responded to touch and posture in ways I had never imagined, every small motion teaching me more about how to inhabit this new self. One night, I caught her watching me. "You're learning," she said quietly, eyes glinting with satisfaction. "Soon, you'll see the full effect of everything I've done. You won't just look different, you'll feel different. Entirely different." I felt a shiver of both dread and anticipation. "What do you mean?" I asked, though my curiosity betrayed my fear. "You'll understand soon enough," she replied, brushing a gentle hand along my cheek. "And when you do, you'll be completely mine." The words echoed in my mind long after she left the room. I was terrified, yes, but part of me couldn't help wondering what it would feel like to surrender, to fully inhabit this body, this role. Even as fear pulsed through me, a strange excitement began to creep in. By the end of the week, I was beginning to notice subtle changes in my emotions, my perceptions, my desires. I felt protective of this new life growing inside me, even though I didn't understand how it had begun. I craved gentleness, softness, nurturing. And every time she looked at me, smiled or whispered guidance, I felt drawn deeper into her control, her plan, and the strange, exhilarating journey she had forced me to embark on. The mixture of fear, shame, and curiosity became addictive. Alone, I practiced movement, touch, and speech. I studied my reflection obsessively, tracing every curve and contour. I began to anticipate her expectations, sometimes finding myself wanting to please her, even as I battled my own disbelief. I realized with growing clarity that this wasn't just a physical transformation. It was mental, emotional, and entirely consuming. Every heartbeat, every glance in the mirror, every gentle brush of fabric over my skin reinforced the undeniable truth. My life, my body, and my future were no longer mine alone. She had a plan, and I was living it. The first public outing was terrifying. She insisted we go to a prenatal appointment together, claiming it would be good practice. My stomach twisted with anxiety as I dressed in one of her flowing pastel dresses. The soft fabric clung delicately to my curves, draping over my swelling belly in a way that made me acutely aware of every movement. I hesitated in front of the mirror, tracing my fingers over the curve of my stomach. "I can't do this," I whispered. But she only smiled, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. "You can," she said softly, but with a firmness that brooked no argument. "And you will. You're ready." As soon as we stepped outside, I felt the weight of every eye. People stared, not just casually, but with an intensity that made my chest tighten. Some whispered, others smiled kindly, some avoided looking at me altogether. I wanted to shrink into myself, to disappear, but her hand on my arm grounded me. "You're radiant," she whispered. "Own it." I nodded hesitantly, inhaling sharply. Each step felt unnatural, my hips swaying differently, my posture conscious and deliberate. But as we entered the clinic, something changed. A few women looked at me with admiration, some with curiosity, some with quiet empathy. And in those glances, I felt something strange, pride. I was being seen, truly seen, for the body I now inhabited. During the appointment, the doctor asked routine questions, and I answered quietly, softly, each word higher pitched than my usual voice. Every movement, every gesture, was deliberate, guided subconsciously by her training. I caught her gaze once, and she gave me a subtle nod of approval. It was intoxicating, this sense of being noticed, evaluated, and, strangely, admired. Afterward, we went to a small cafe for lunch. Sitting in a bustling environment, I felt exposed, vulnerable, and yet exhilarated. Strangers' eyes lingered on my belly, on my soft curves, on my face, which glowed with the new femininity I was learning to embrace. Each compliment, each glance, sent my pulse racing. Fear mingled with excitement, a thrilling mixture I had never experienced before. A woman passing by smiled warmly and said, "You're going to be a wonderful mother." My chest tightened, and my lips trembled. "Thank you," I whispered, voice catching. And then, alone in my thoughts, I realized I was inhabiting this role fully and publicly. The climax of this phase came during a family gathering she orchestrated. Everyone knew, or thought they knew, that I was expecting. She dressed me in a shimmering, form-fitting dress, heels clicking softly on the floor. Hair styled to perfection, makeup flawless. Each step I took was deliberate, every glance, every tilt of the head, calculated to project confidence. As we entered, the room went silent. Eyes widened, whispers rippled, conversations paused mid-sentence. My pulse thundered in my ears, my stomach fluttered with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. I felt her hand brush against mine, grounding me, whispering, "You're hers now. You've embraced it fully." I straightened, chin high, shoulders back. The fear lingered but mingled with something deeper, power. By simply existing in this body, in this role, I commanded attention. And in that realization, a thrill surged through me unlike anything I had ever known. People approached, some cautiously, some warmly. Compliments, gentle questions, and soft smiles flowed. I responded, voice soft but confident, gestures fluid and graceful. I laughed lightly, moved deliberately, and realized I was no longer a passive participant. I was fully inhabiting this body, this role, and for the first time, it felt empowering. Later, alone in my room, I studied my reflection. Soft curves, glowing skin, gentle swell of my belly, and eyes that now held confidence and depth. I traced my fingers over my stomach and lips, whispering, "I am hers. I am carrying life. I am alive." Fear had not vanished entirely, but it no longer ruled me. Panic had given way to exhilaration, and disbelief had evolved into acceptance. I realized profoundly that my body was not just a vessel but a source of power, presence, and transformation. I had been forced into this life, yes, but by choosing to inhabit it fully, to embrace every curve, every movement, every glance, I had claimed it entirely. And in that claim, I had found a new sense of self, a woman strong, visible, and unapologetically alive. Days turned into weeks, and each morning I woke with a strange mix of awe and acceptance. My body was changing rapidly, curves softening, my belly swelling with undeniable life, and my breasts fuller, heavier, more sensitive. At first, I had recoiled from these changes, panicked at the thought of being trapped in a life I hadn't chosen. But now, there was a subtle thrill in feeling my body respond to her plan, in feeling the power it gave me. She watched me quietly, always near, sometimes brushing a gentle hand against my arm or whispering encouragement in my ear. "You're doing beautifully," she said one morning as I practiced walking through the living room in a flowing dress, heels clicking softly on the hardwood. "You're becoming her, fully." I paused, letting the words sink in. "Her?" I asked, voice trembling. "Yes," she said softly. "The woman you were always meant to be. The life you were meant to inhabit." And slowly, against every instinct, I realized she was right. I wasn't just existing in this body. I was alive in it. Every movement, every gesture, every smile carried a confidence I had never known. Public outings had become exercises in empowerment. Grocery stores, prenatal appointments, even casual walks around the neighborhood transformed from sources of fear into arenas where I could inhabit my new self fully. People looked, whispered, sometimes stared, but I held my head high, smiled gently, and discovered the intoxicating power of presence. Strangers commented on my pregnancy, congratulated me on the life I was carrying. I responded with soft, deliberate words, graceful gestures, and each interaction, though nerve-wracking at first, reinforced a profound truth. I was visible, and I could command that visibility with confidence. Even family gatherings, once terrifying, became celebrations of this transformation. People noticed the changes in my body, the soft sway of my hips, the glow on my face, the nurturing warmth I exuded, and for the first time, I didn't shrink. I owned it. At home, she guided me through the subtleties of life as her creation. How to move gracefully, how to respond with empathy, how to nurture and carry myself with confidence. Her instructions were firm but gentle, guiding me without force, letting me inhabit the role fully on my own terms. One evening, she took my hand and looked into my eyes. "You've embraced her," she whispered. "Completely. Do you feel it?" I nodded slowly, feeling a warmth in my chest I had never known. "Yes," I said softly. I feel alive. I feel powerful. I'm proud of her. Proud of me." Her smile was radiant. "Good. Because she is yours now. Fully." The ultimate realization came one quiet night when I stood alone in front of the mirror. My reflection stared back at me, soft curves, gentle swell of the belly, luminous skin, eyes glowing with confidence. I traced my fingers over my lips, over the roundness of my stomach, over my shoulders, and whispered, "I am hers. I am carrying life. I am alive. And I am proud." The fear that had haunted me during the first days of this transformation had faded. Disbelief, panic, and shame had transformed into confidence, empowerment, and profound acceptance. I had been forced into this life, yes, but by choosing to embrace it fully, to inhabit it unapologetically, I had claimed it as my own. For the first time, I realized that transformation wasn't just physical. It was emotional, mental, and spiritual. I was a woman, carrying life, living fully, and unapologetically present in every moment. And in that realization, I felt an overwhelming sense of freedom. Now, as I walk through the world with my new body, my new presence, I carry not just life within me but also the knowledge of my own power. People look, but I no longer fear their gaze. I smile, confident, grounded, and radiant. She had forced me into this journey, but in embracing it, I had found a strength I never knew existed. I am no longer a victim of circumstance. I am no longer a passive participant. I am alive, powerful, and unapologetically me. And that, above all, is the greatest gift of her plan.